Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia, and this is the Meme Team podcast where we dissect marketing strategies, creating breakout cultural moments. This week, I'm welcoming one of my really good friends, Jiya Jaisingh, a fractional marketer and communicator with over 10 years of health and social impact experience. Welcome, Jiya.
Hi, Sonia. I'm so glad to be here.
So we got a very thick podcast.
Yep.
So let's just hop right into it. So Anthropic dropped Claude Super Bowl ads today, and I told Jiya, we need to talk about this like immediately. Because it's so topical and I think it's really going to go viral the rest of the week. So Anthropic spent the 7 to 8 million to basically announce what they're not going to do, which is not have ads on their product. The one caveat is that they did include in their blog that should we need to revisit this approach, we'll be transparent about our reasons. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But basically they launched 4 ads in which they have a person that's like talking to an AI, asking a question, and then they just sneak in like an ad. One of my favorite ones was the guy asking for the fitness plan, which is a huge rip off the ChatGPT ad that launched, a few months ago. And then you have the, AI ask the guy, like, give me your height and weight so I can, do a custom plan for you. And so he gives him his height and weight. And then the ad is like, put in some like inserts into your shoes because every inch counts. So it's like one of those like insidious ways of how AI asks for our information, our personal information, and then uses that to give you an ad. I thought it was like really funny, but then also like one of those like, like cringe moments. Like, can you imagine if the AI actually did that? Yeah, there's another one where the man asked to talk, how he should speak better to his mom. And, it's giving him advice. And then at the end, it's like an ad to connect with older cougars, And it was very funny, but they're just like way off. It's a very satirical. It's a huge like parody of what an AI could do. I just don't actually think that ChatGPT or OpenAI would take it to that level. OpenAI basically has enough information about us that would actually serve us better ads. That's why they're going after the big brands directly in order to try to get those type of ads instead of like bottom of the barrel, like Taboola like ads,
Right.
So that's one thing. But the other thing that did stand out here was just how much Anthropic is calling out OpenAI because the ads all end with Dr. Dre, the difference between me and you, right? Like that song. Right. And it's really like, throwing that out at them, right? Jiya, would love your thoughts here. Did you see the ads? What did you think?
Oh yeah, I saw the ads. They were great, and I agree with all the points you said. But my favorite part about that is Anthropic used, like you said, the most satirical version of the ads, the ad offering that they could. But I think it's also really smart because for the general audience, like not you and I, who know how ads work and know how, like the prep that would have gone behind an announcement like that, this is their problem, right? Like they don't want to be served ads. So I think Anthropic really went to like, what would people really hate? And we're going to do that version of that ad. And I thought that was a really smart insight to add into that because it like plays well into like the fears of the AI being cringy or not knowing what you want. And I think ChatGPT and OpenAI is going to be smarter about it. It's going to be like really tailored, really customized. It may even ask, if they'd like to see like products and like slip it in that way. Like, would you like to see recommended products that could support you in your fitness journey?
Right.
Kind of build it more into the conversation, Because
Yeah.
that seems to be their
Yeah, I
thing.
think that was kind of like what really stood out to me was just the fact that it was so overt. You're spot on that the idea is going to be more like, hey, these are sponsored products that we're going to put into this to the conversation because it's like you're asking about this. Specifically for like, for the fitness one, say it was like for weight training, for, this, like for the therapist one, it's like maybe you want to talk to therapists in your area or maybe like coaches, that kind of stuff. And not necessarily like insulting your user, which is what I felt most of these like ads did. So this really brought to mind the Mac versus PC like ads from like the 90s where it's like you're calling out your competitor and like really putting them on the spot for what they're being lame about, how they're uncool, how they're not really for you the user. Like, don't you see yourself more in us and like the type of company that we're trying to building that as like the moat that they're creating around themselves. And I think that that's kind of what I've seen from their previous ads of like how Claude and ChatGPT have really differentiated themselves in the past. Like ChatGPT has really wanted to be more of
Yeah.
like the general like Google, right? Where it's like
Like
we're the new like chat
functional.
service. Exactly. Like come to us when you want a recipe, come to us when you want, a new fitness plan. Come to us when you want travel like
Yep.
ideas.
Yep.
Whereas Anthropic and Claude have really focused on, don't you want to be like the cool creative like user that like uses the ethical AI,
Right.
and that like it's more of a thinking partner, and like it's not doing the job for you, it's like helping you achieve your goals.
Right.
And this really fits into that as well, where it's like, don't you want to be the type of user that doesn't have to like deal with ads,
Ads.
especially cringy like corny ads, like
Mm-hmm.
um coming back to the them having to say like, oh, we revisit this approach if we need to. I really think they actually are going to have to revisit this approach, just because ads make the world go round. Sorry, that's just kind of the way things
That's
work
just
these days.
his. Yeah.
Like, if you think about one of the major reasons why social media was completely overtaken by ads, is because nobody is willing to pay for a social
No.
media subscription
Correct.
that would counteract the amount of ads that these companies need to, put in front of us to make
Yeah.
up for the revenue that they need. Facebook has put out, feelers basically like, how much would people be willing to pay for a subscription to
Yeah.
Facebook? And people are like,
Yeah.
nothing. I want
Zero.
it free. The same way
Yeah.
it's been, especially because it's a horrible product. And look, you don't even give me
Yeah.
my friends that I can like, follow and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so I really do think that they are going to have to do ads eventually. But what I think is really smart about this is that they're creating the type of brand that will bring in the type of advertisers that their users are really going to
Yeah.
appreciate, right?
Yeah.
Luxury creative brands that want to get in front
Mm-hmm.
of the luxury creative, people that are their audience and their, ICP. Any thoughts on that, Gio?
Yeah, I their statement was really interesting, but what I really latched onto was the word transparent, because I think that's how
Hmm.
they were trying to differentiate themselves from OpenAI, where they're kind of making it sound like, which, it kind of was that OpenAI was like, we're this great platform, blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, ads, and everyone was like, whoa, ads. Like, I didn't see that coming. And I think Anthropic knows that that's where they're gonna go, because, like you said, eventually there's gonna have to be something that gives in that, like, brings in that revenue, and they're setting themselves up to not get that backlash in a way by, like,
Hmm.
releasing this now, adding that word transparent, so they're kind of inviting the user into the decision rather than springing it on them, so it feels more organic in a way and less, you know, like, sprung on the users.
Yeah. Yes, we're transparently telling you that right now we're not gonna do
Yes.
ads, but
Yeah,
that we reserve the
exactly.
right to eventually do it.
But we told you, so we're the
There's
good
also the
guys.
Exactly. There's also the meta irony of Super Bowl ads being the way that they are telling
Oh,
you that
yeah.
they are not
Isn't
gonna
that
do
funny?
ads, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see if people actually call them out on that, or just kind of just say like, "Oh, this is a great way for them to announce that they were gonna do this." Or maybe I
Yeah,
respect the fact that you're paying $7 million to tell me that you're
yeah,
not gonna give me ads for
yeah.
now, you know?
Yeah, I
Um,
think they're gonna get a good number of eyeballs on it because it's kind of ballsy and it's fun, and I think it's gonna be
yeah.
talked about. In depth, sure, but I think it's just gonna be, like, talked about, and I think that's what they're getting out of it is just the eyeballs of all these people who are gonna think it's cringy and funny, so it's smart.
Yeah. I also want to highlight another huge
Oh,
brand competition that is happening. It was the Pepsi ad that's essentially calling out Coca-Cola by
mhm.
using a couple things, right? They used the famous Coca-Cola polar bear in their ad. They did not use AI to make this video, which I
Nope.
thought was a huge like call out to Coca-Cola. It's even making me question whether I
Mhm.
will become a Pepsi drinker, just to kind of
Maybe.
jump on the train of like craft and like storytelling and stuff. But I
Mhm.
also wanted to highlight that they called out to another famous moment that happened this year, which was the Coldplay cheating controversy,
That was good. That was really
by
funny.
yeah, including that in the ad, which was hilarious. Um, And I think it was one of those things where it made me realize just how much of the monoculture revolves around that incident and
Yep.
how much everyone kind of like knows it because now they can reference that in a commercial
Yep.
and have people like instantly know what they're talking about and referencing, but then also like use that as a moment to connect with like your audience saying like, hey, we just like you experienced this, we thought it was funny,
Yep.
look how we're using it. The storytelling that was happening in the ad was like that the polar bear is questioning his like identity,
Yep.
where it's like he's not in on like the AI, like he's going to the therapist for it, and then he gets caught on the camera like, oh, you're drinking Pepsi, what,
Yeah.
so I thought it was
Wild.
like really great
Yeah.
really great way of showing like, oh, he's cheating on Coca-Cola with Pepsi, right? So it was a good way to kind of
Right.
infuse the moment of like referencing the cheating with this huge like
Yep.
moment that everybody knows and like keep the arc of the storytelling like in place for like that itself.
I I loved it, and I thought that referencing, like, the infamous Coke ad for all its AI and stuff, like, that they dealt with it with humor. Even if you're, like, not, like, a huge Pepsi fan or Pepsi drinker, I think you would watch that ad and laugh. I
Mhm.
also think that they're bringing back, like, the original challenge, that blind taste
That's
test of the
right.
Pepsi and the Coke.
Mhm.
I think it's a smart move, and, all of this competition that, we just talked about two different kind of categories that are doing the direct competitor call out thing. And I think
Mhm.
that's really fun because it's like otherwise everything kind of blends together. This gets audiences
Mhm.
invested in like a team or a side or have an opinion versus just watching
Mhm.
like a happy commercial about something. So I thought that was a good play on their part.
Yeah, so that's actually one of my lessons to be learned for this segment, which is that using your competitors' decisions are opportunities
Hmm.
for you to mark your positioning as well, right? So
Right.
OpenAI announcing that they're doing ads handed Anthropic this like wedge issue of like
Right.
which AI do you want to use? The one that's going to put
Yeah.
ads in front of you, or the one that's not going to do that?
Yep.
Um, and then do you want the Coke company that is gonna use AI to give you a polar bear or the one that's not gonna give you AI for the polar bear? I thought it was also very smart because, and we'll talk about this later, but there are also
Yeah.
other soda companies, right? But by Pepsi, aligning itself to Coke, it's like, no, no, no. I'm up here with like it's Coke and Pepsi, and
Yes.
then all the rest of the soda brands are
Everyone's
down
below.
here.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then that similar thing happening with, Anthropic. Anthropic's like, "No, no, no, I'm playing with the big guy, that's
The big
OpenAI, right?
leagues.
Not with, like, the other AI services that are, like, down here, like, we don't even think about those. We're
No.
talking about AI, OpenAI, and that's
Yeah.
who we want to, put ourselves next to." And then another one, is that in crowded markets, your refusal to, like, do something, here are the ads, is a
Yeah.
positioning, right? Like it's making clear to your ICP, to your target consumer, that this is what we're not going to do.
Mm.
It's like that you're making yourself known as being the brand that's not going to have ads. So if this is what you're looking for, come to us. So it's a
Yeah.
interesting way of like not just saying they're not going to do it, but like being very vocal and staking that position to let people
Yeah.
know, like, hey, we're over here. We're not going to give you ads. Um, the downside though, of course, is that when they do have to like switch over, will they retain those same customers who
Yeah.
like came over to them because you weren't going to do ads?
Yeah.
So that'll be
That's
something we'll have to see in the future.
Yeah, we'll have to see how long people's memories are,
Yeah.
or how their brand recall works, because
Uh-huh.
maybe if they give it, like, a year, people won't remember remember because it's, like
Hmm.
rather than giving it a week. So I think that'll be interesting, and I see that both Anthropic and Pepsi were like, "We don't wanna be the runners up, right? We're
Hmm.
gonna try to break through." And be like part of the market share. They wanna like not be in that perception kind of purgatory of always being second. So I see the play here and I like it. I think it's
Yeah,
cool. I'm rooting
for
for the
sure.
underdogs.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It just depends. Are you going to start using Claude? Are you going to start drinking Pepsi?
I'm a Claude girly. So I
Okay.
like Claude because I kind of like the research, the creative angle. It doesn't like do everything for me.
See,
So
they
I think
get
it's
you.
yeah. So I'm already on the Claude team Claude here.
Awesome.
So, talking about Super Bowl, apparently this is the year where Wellness Bowl is like an alternative name for the Super Bowl game. It's really interesting to see that there's like a wellness trend happening at the Super Bowl because when you think Super Bowl, you think like wings, chips, dip, soda. alcohol, beer parties, you know? So I think it's
Sure.
interesting that this year we're seeing like trends of like wellness and health brands. So like you have the GLP-1s, you have the Poppy, you have Kellogg. Kellogg is returning to the Super Bowl for the first time in 15 years, not to promote Pop Tarts or Frosted Flakes, but they're doing it to promote Raisin Bran, which I never thought they would spend $7+ million on Raisin Bran, but clearly there's something there in their research and their audience that they're seeing that fiber and, healthy foods are up and they feel like it's a worthy investment. Did you happen to watch the ad, Sonia, but the one with William Shatner in it?
I did not. So I don't like poop and ads or whatever. So I
Yeah.
pretty much got the concept as soon as it said something shat, right? And I'm like, okay, I get what
Oh,
you're trying to get
yeah.
at. Raisin bran,
Fiber.
fiber, poo.
Yeah.
So it made sense. I was like, you know what? It's clever. I understand like the point of it. I thought it was risky but I think you're right. Health has become like a big thing. This recalls one of the first episodes that I did with Amanda was we were talking about
Yeah.
protein, and she brought up the fact that the next big thing should be fiber, you know? And so here we are talking
Here
about
we
fiber,
are.
right?
I
So shout out
know.
to Amanda calling that one. Gut health is such a like term right now
Trending.
that's like yeah, exactly. Where it's like everything's about, we used to have yogurts, right? Like I remember those like
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis
Yep.
ads that we used to have about I forget probiotics, right? In like
Yeah.
Activa.
Activa. Yeah. I mean, the whole gut health thing is so big right now. Yeah, apparently, they're saying that there's searches for high fiber food is up and 70% of people are looking to increase their fiber intake. So I think it's kind of bold because it's like I don't think you would expect a Raisin Bran ad. And I'm really curious to see how they're going to pull it off because celebrity ads are always risky, right? Like, are people just
Mhm.
going to remember the poop joke or are they actually going to remember that fiber is good for them? And so it's going to be very
Mhm.
interesting to see how they're looking at their
Sales go
metrics
up or
or
not, or
our
yeah.
sales are going up. Like, it's very different when you're, like, clicking to things or buying products that are cool and fun versus, like, health products because you have to, like, shift behavior. People have to go buy something totally
Mhm.
different. You have to convince people that fiber is good for you, even if they don't already feel that way, or fiber is good enough for you that you should buy our product, that our product's gonna give you what you need. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
things that you need to change people's minds on and push them to do things with health products or health kind of marketing. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how they're tracking all this and how their conversion's gonna work. Because if you remember, like, Special K, I don't know
Yeah.
if that, like, did so well, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I do wonder if a thing here though is the whole like GLP-1 thing, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
more people are getting on it. I mean, one of the other famous Super Bowl commercials that's happening this year is Roe, right? With
yeah,
Serena Williams and her
yep,
experience. Anyway, so what it means for more and more people to be using GLP-1s, and what that means for like the health trends and like
yep,
diet trends, right? Because now it's no longer that you're trying to avoid, sugary
yeah.
food. Now it's, oh, do you even want it, right?
Like, what
So
are you
it's like,
eating?
what right, exactly. So what are you eating? What are the alternatives if you are wanting
Yeah,
to eat some more like health conscious food? Well, you
yeah,
got to be reminded that Raisin Bran is still out there. We've been out
yep,
here for like how long? They were one of the
yeah,
first cereals. So it's like trying to remind
yeah,
people, hey, like, we go way back. Like we've been here.
yeah.
We've always been healthy, right? We're not trying to like rebrand our
We're
like
not new.
sugary exactly our new sugary like and then it's also, I think, a way to call out like all those new like protein cereals that have come out
Yep,
that like are the new millennial brands, like where it's like, let's go back to the trusted, true, like actual fiberful cereals that like
yep.
used to be healthy and were kind of a well balanced meal, right? Because it's like you have the carbs, but then you also have the raisins, right?
So you're getting,
So
like, the full
I think it'd be
package.
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
At a
But that's
grocery
why I wonder why they
store.
went the poop way, right? Probably going to get them more attention overall, which is what I think they're like going for. But they could have, maybe another angle would have been, that we've been that girl for number of years or whatever.
I think it's all about like, a lot of, like, humor and celebrity like, you see those combinations a lot, but I think what's gonna be
Mhm.
really interesting is when they do, like, their brand recall studies and stuff, it's like, what do they really remember? Like, William Shatner was in an ad, or
Right.
is it, like, Raisin Bran has fiber? So I think that's gonna be pivotal for them to see and for us to see. But what I did like about that ad, and I want to point out, is that they were making kind of this aspirational claim of fiber is good for you by showing the proof of it, right? Because he's in the
Uh-huh.
ad, he's healthy, he's like doing well, and like he eats Raisin Bran. So it's like, I think that is like proof versus promise. Because I think sometimes a lot of health stuff is like, do this and we'll give you that, and do this and this will happen for you. So I think that showing like that it works is better than promising you that it will in the future.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a more positive way of health marketing than like fear-based, because that doesn't really work. It's to scare people into
Hmm.
buying things. So yeah, I think I really like that. So I want to talk about some of the like lessons that I learned from this ad because I was watching it. These health brands are kind of coming in and not waiting for that permission. They're like, we're gonna come in and we're gonna dominate like possibly one of the biggest junk food events of the year to talk about our products. And I think that's a really bold move. And I think that's really interesting to like disrupt this category. They're like redefining who belongs at these like tentpole events and moments. It's not just like a certain type of brand that you come to expect. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that'll get them more eyeballs. Cause like again, you wouldn't expect Raisin Bran to be at the Super Bowl, right? Like
Hmm.
normally. So that might even benefit them more than just being like a Coke or a Pepsi or a Doritos, which we like at this point know are going to be in the Super Bowl year after year.
Okay, something I want to call out here from all the commercials, the
Yeah,
Anthropic Claude commercial, the Pepsi commercial, and now this William Shatner commercial, is that all of
yeah,
them are going for humor, which is what I've been saying about
yes,
my Monsters Inc. theory of marketing, which is that
yes,
getting people to laugh and think about something in a joyful and like humorous manner is so much more effective than getting them pissed off about something, right?
yeah,
There could have been a rage baity side there, right? It's like, oh,
yeah,
let's talk about how OpenAI is gonna, piss off their consumers by putting
yep,
ads, right?
yeah,
Instead of going like the funny fun route, right? Or I want to shout out to the Budweiser commercial, which did the nostalgia heavy like ad about like the horse with like the eagle and like American
yes,
patriotism and stuff like
yes,
that. In like a happy, neutral way.
yes.
So I thought that was like another one that kind of like fits this mold. To be fair, I haven't seen that many like rage baity, like
I don't think so
ads
either.
this session. So that's like pretty cool that like, that's happening across the industry. So excited, to see more of those examples going forward.
It's like, hey, maybe the brands are reading the room. They're like, we
Yeah,
need to
right.
make people laugh. We need to not like there's enough sadness going around. We need to give people something to remember. It kind of ties into the entertainment aspect of the evening. So I'm with you. I think
Hmm.
brands should make people laugh more. Also, I
Yeah,
will always remember
definitely.
someone who makes me laugh.
Yeah, exactly. Right. What's that Maya Angelou quote that you always remember how someone made you feel?
Yes, exactly. Look, a classic is a classic for a reason.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay. So the last thing we have a couple like little ones at the end that we want to touch on, but the
Yeah.
the last one's the Disney CEO transition. Basically, what I want to focus on here is experience marketing as a moat. Um,
Mm,
the next CEO that was just chosen is Josh D'Amaro, who's taking over from Bob Iger in March. This is super interesting because D'Amaro comes from the parks, right? He
yeah.
was in charge of the parks, the cruises, all the experiences, and not
Yeah.
the content side of things, right?
Yeah.
This matters because Disney Experiences is valued at $205 billion versus
Mm,
the content side, which is only $47 billion. Um,
yeah.
the parks are not a side business. They are the core part of Disney. Damaro's thesis is that a Disney story doesn't end when the credits roll or when you walk out of the park's front gate. This is top of mind right now for me because
Yeah.
my kids are super into Bluey right now. And
Yep.
Disneyland recently announced that they are changing the park to have a Bluey
Oh, I
Disneyland
love that.
experience that I
Yep.
know my kids are going to love
They
as soon as
will.
it opens.
Yep.
And they also have the movie coming out next year. So it's like a
Yeah.
whole tie into everything, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's how they get you, right? You get the content for the
Yep.
kids, and then you put it in the parks, and then you put it in, the movie
Yeah.
theater, and it just goes round and round, right?
Yep. Yep.
I also want to call out here that he positioned AI as always second to human creativity, which I think is so smart for
Important.
Disney to really focus on the human creativity part because like that's what they were made from. That's like the Walt Disney brand and like
Yep.
iconography that comes from him, right? As like the
Yep.
original animated movies, right? Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, like all the art and all the history that's in that,
Yeah.
bringing that to the fore, right? When they bought Pixar and like Pixar movies became like the next iteration of what animated films should be, right? Where it's like they're still kind of held to the, as like the exemplar, right? Because they mix both the animation, but then also the storytelling, right?
Yeah.
They've kind of had a couple of, not hits, but I think people are actually anticipating Toy Story 5 because like
Yep.
Big Bad Evil is going to be like the little
The
tablet, right?
iPad.
Which is
Hmm.
a huge thing that parents are going through, right?
Yep.
Um, so, and this comes after Bob Iger announced the OpenAI partnership a couple months ago, right? So I'll be interested to see what direction he takes the company after that partnership, which I assume is still there, right? Because he
Yeah.
didn't announce that it's going away, but definitely, figure out like what their actual position is going forward. But it is a stake in the sand that he did lay that he thinks that the human creativity is what makes Disney Disney. Back to the brand moat and like the brand equity experiences are what people want to do now. That's a thing that people still feel is worth paying money towards,
Yep.
right? Where it's like if I'm gonna get a full day experience of something, it better be good, right? Like if I'm gonna
Yep.
pay this amount of money. And Disney has been raising its prices steadily enough that they're realizing, hey, people are willing to pay for this,
People
right?
will do it.
Exactly, right? They keep going back to the parks. The cruises are doing super well. The like island experiences are doing super well. So it's really showing that these are the types of things that people want. So the fact that they're
Yeah.
investing in them by choosing the CEO makes so much sense for me. I also think that this goes along with the, AI messaging that he's laying out that it's like
Yeah.
let's bring it back to the human. We're gonna like have the humans generating the creativity, and all that creativity is gonna flow back into the experiences that people have with the parks. And it's just gonna be a cycle of like you experience a show or a movie, and then you
Yeah.
experience it at one of their parks going forward. They
Hmm.
also did mention that they're trying to open up a Disney resort in the Middle
Yeah.
East. So that's like a new thing that they're investing in. So I'll be curious to see kind of like what happens there. Obviously, there's a lot of money to play with over there and a lot of money that they could get investments of from like, I think it's going to be in Abu Dhabi.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
because of course, right, the adult playground is now going to have a children's playground to go with it.
It's.
I mean, to be
I know,
fair,
right?
Disneyland is also an adult playground, right? There's a lot of Disney adults
There's a
that
lot
go
of
there.
Disney adults.
Yeah. So would love to know your thoughts, Gia, on everything and what you
Yeah.
see happening here as well.
I mean, what really stood out to me is that Disney's making a very clear statement that they're no longer competing with like a Netflix or just like a
Hmm.
Universal. Like they're not just as content is our moat, right? They're like,
Hmm.
they know that because they're increasing the prices for families, it's almost like a luxury good at this point. It's like, how can we go bigger and
Oh,
bigger? It is a luxury. It is a luxury good. A family of four, like you're competing with
my
like a
God,
ski
yeah.
trip or a vacation
Hmm.
or
Oh,
like
yeah.
a whole big event. Like you would save for something like the prices that Disney's at right now. It's like you would save for that for like a year, right? If you wanted to take like
Hmm.
five people to like Disneyland and have like the whole like
Hmm.
hotel or cruise or both the parks or fly somewhere to go to a different Disney. So it's like they're
Hmm.
planning it around like this whole experience. And so it's
Yeah.
gonna become this like positioning that's I feel is gonna go a little bit more luxurious than just entertainment, right? Because they're gonna
Hmm.
reach a different type of audience now. And I think that's what they're putting their money on. And I thought that it was really interesting that they're like, yeah, content's like a thing, but this is where we eventually want to lead people to. Like you said, it's all about the experience now, right? And once you create that perpetual engagement loop, it's like you don't let the customer leave, right? Because you have Moana 1, then you get the doll, then you go to the park, then you like book a Moana hotel room, then there's like a Moana themed restaurant, and then your child is like, I love Moana for the rest of my life. And then you
Yeah.
have Moana 2 that comes out, right? And so it's like creating this like no off ramps. Like you're in the Disney world for a long time. And I thought that was really interesting that
Hmm.
they're like double downing on.
Yeah, one thing that you called out that I really like, it can't really compete with Netflix on a
Mhm.
technological like platform level,
Right,
but it doesn't need
exactly.
to because Netflix can't compete with Disneyland and Disney
Nope.
World and Disney Japan, right? Like
Yep.
it can't, unless it's going to go and create, you know,
Like
parks for
decades.
exactly, right? Um, so that's like a huge thing where it's like Disney sees that as like the moat because it's like they've had that for, what I think Disneyland is celebrating like 70 years or 75
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
of being like a park. One thing I do wonder is that how much is going to continue into the luxury experience versus trying to widen it a little bit more so that
Yeah.
more people can go. Obviously they have been like raising prices, so it is kind of headed in the luxury direction. But at some point they are going to start pricing out families
Yep.
that want
They
to
are.
go there. And that's a huge battle that's like happening. I mean, I see that on Twitter all the time. Like, are
Yeah.
Disney adults, like, should that be the focus of Disney, or should we go back to being what it was, like a kids park, right?
Like a family friendly
But I mean,
fun.
exactly. And that's affordable fun, right? Like,
Yep.
the thing that you bring up, right, is like, you're competing against like ski trips and like, more like international travel.
Yep.
So like when a family is comparing those two, the Disney experience better live up to a trip to Europe, right?
Yep.
With like the flights and like, the hotel and everything.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
far it has, right?
Yep.
So that's something that they'll have to like, keep there, or they're going to have to make something that's more affordable and accessible to more families. But
Yep.
so far they haven't, hit that wall yet. And then I did want to call out that they did promote another person, Dana Walden, as like
Yep.
president of Disney, who comes from the content arm, right? She was also up for the job for CEO.
Yep.
They
I
went with
remember.
Josh Tomorrow for his like parts experience. But
Yep.
she's going to be president because she was in charge of like the content side. So content is not
Yep.
going away. Obviously, there's
Of
still,
course not. Yep.
still have some of the most iconic brands out there.
Yep.
Star Wars, Marvel properties, the
Hmm.
Bluey universe, which is coming
Yep.
soon,
Exactly.
So that is still going to be like a thing. And then exactly what Gia was saying, right? Where it's like Moana 2 came out last year and it was like one of the highest gross box office hits
Yep.
because like parents take their kids to watch these movies, right? The other one
Yep.
is Zootopia, right? Zootopia
Yeah.
was like
Good movie.
the one of the highest actually, if not
Yep.
the highest, like in the international market, specifically China, right?
Yep.
So these are like films that are still like, bringing in like families and bringing in parents because of their kids. So that's definitely something that they're gonna like have to like focus on going forward. And from what we've seen with like, the Star Wars universe, which, hasn't been as successful as they would have wanted,
Yep.
they're gonna have to like start looking at these other worlds that they have and
Yep.
seeing what they can do to bring them into like the parks. I assume they're gonna have Zootopia at like Disneyland at some point. I know it's
Probably.
already at Disney World, but given how popular it was, it wouldn't surprise me for them to bring that into the Disneyland experience as well.
Yeah.
um
I mean, it's a way for this legacy entertainment brand to survive, right? Like they're just like,
yeah.
look, we have like 70 plus years of content and some content's like not doing as good now, but we have all of this IP and they are
Mhm.
like putting it to good use, I think. And so I think they'll have a lot to work with and I'll be curious to see um where they take the parks experience and how much of a focus it's going to become now.
Yeah. So a couple lessons for me here are that physical experiences are still an undervalued brand mode.
Yeah.
So if anything, I do think Netflix might start trying to create some sort of like world. This kind of riffing off of the commercial that they just had that played to the like 10 different worlds that are in
Yep.
their universe,
Hmm.
and start trying to do like more experiences that way, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
can they start doing some of those like Bridgerton balls that are actually like
Yeah.
Netflix
Yep.
sponsored events and not like, side events that people
Yep.
are hosting by themselves? Some of these other like properties that they have, the
Yep.
Stranger Things worlds, um because experiences are what people want right now.
Yep.
Disney is kind of proving that out. This CEO choice is a brand strategy. It's showing they're
Yep.
going full in on the parks guy instead of the content.
Yep.
And so maybe some of these other like upstart companies need to start thinking about what sort of experiences they can provide for
Yeah.
consumers in order to compete more broadly with Disney. And then we'll see about the whole human creativity first, AI second. I really really do hope that they go towards like the craft and storytelling, which is what they're known for. I
Yeah.
thought it was a huge miss when Bob Iger announced the OpenAI partnership and saying
Yeah.
that like people will now be able to create content instead of like being like, we're going to use AI to help our creators facilitate what they're already creating, because the human ingenuity and creativity is what Disney is known for. That's what
It's
we
their
hire for, the
ethos.
Imagineers, you know? Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't say that, I don't think that companies need to be like, we're anti-AI. No, no, it's like, how are you going to use it to help support your
Yeah.
brand and your ethos, your mission and values? And
Yeah.
I think this is a better approach for me going forward.
I think with all the layoffs and just kind of the environment around the AI and like the job market, I think trying to be like supplement, not replace is a smart way to put
Hmm.
it, right? Because and I think like this statement was good because it's like we're always going to value human creativity. We're not going to make you watch like slop. We're not going to make you watch like AI generated content. Like we're still Disney, we're
Hmm.
still creative, we're still like, you know, bringing you the things that you love, just like enhanced because we have all this technology to do that now. So I agree with you on that one. And it's like a good step forward for like a legacy brand to like say that human creativity will always come first. And I think Apple has been doing that a lot too. So we're going to
Yes.
see it more and more, I
Hmm.
think.
Yes. Apple has definitely been killing it on that front. Another company that has been killing it for me is shout out that I want to give this week is to Stripe Press for the rollout and marketing of the Maintenance of Everything Part One book by Stuart
Yeah.
Brand. I was lucky enough to get one of the little packages, and it had like the book. And
Yeah,
what
that's
I thought was
nice.
like super interesting was the patches and then like the rag on the inside,
Yeah.
because it like talks to what the book is actually about, right? Which is like
Yeah.
maintaining things in order to like bring them, into the future with you, right? It's not good enough to just continue buying new. It's like let's maintain the old stuff, and like keep it going. And so like the
Yeah.
patches were like really cool because it speaks to like, oh, you're patching up, old stuff, you're putting patches on your clothes, or
Yeah.
like the book that features kintsugi, which is like the
Hmm.
Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold lacquer. And the
Yeah.
book looks like that, right? It's all
That's
patched up.
cool.
And then I saw some of the tweets that Stuart Brand himself posted about how they reached the concept of eventually getting to kintsugi, and I thought it was like such a well made like book and process,
Yeah.
that I wanted to like really shout it out as like a whole marketing experience, for other companies to take note, where it's like there's so much more that you could be doing to promote your works. Stripe Press does a
Yeah.
really good job of doing that by like not only just doing this like little package, but we've gotten other books like before from Stripe Press themselves.
Yeah.
So they have like influencers that they send that out to. That was to my husband, not me. Okay, it was on the tech side. Um, this one I will say did come to me though,
I love that.
which is
It's
pretty
in the
cool.
family.
I
Yeah.
connected with Tamara Winter on Twitter, and she's like, "Hey, we'd love to send you a box," and I was like, "Oh my god, yes, of course."
Yes.
Um, so that was like pretty cool. Obviously that was part of like the marketing strategy, reaching out to people to talk about it, and that's why I want to talk about it on the podcast, just as like a successful campaign to me. And I've seen other people post about
Yeah.
it on Twitter as well, that had they received the books, and then how joyful receiving the package was, and how
Yeah.
much thought like really seemed to go into it. Have you been seeing these tweets, Gia?
Yeah, I saw a few and I like that, it's a positive experience that's kind of tailored to their audience and I like that I like that people are getting joy from something that you receive. And I think that sometimes that's like a really good indicator that they've put a lot of thought into it. So I was really impressed.
Yeah. Awesome. So on the flip side of that, we have two campaigns that weren't quite as successful.
No.
So last week, Sydney Sweeney launched her Siren brand. So I I will
Yeah.
admit that at first I thought that was Stern, and then
Same.
realized it was
Same girl.
Siren, right? So I thought that that was a miss because people shouldn't question what the name of your
Nope.
lingerie brand is. The other thing I thought was a miss was the color and branding that they created around like the logo. The green they chose does not scream a sexy siren to me.
No, it screams health food company.
I saw a tweet go viral that was like,
Yeah.
this screams, like sweet green or like health
Yep.
company, salad bowl company,
Right. Salad,
instead
green
of
juice, like pressed
exactly.
juicery kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally all those colors. I mean, all those brands
Yes.
have that a similar logo, right? So the fact that they didn't go with something that would, let the brand would scream more like Sydney Sweeney or
Yeah.
Siren didn't make
Yeah.
sense to me. They could have gone with something more like, sexy, mermaid vibes, which I assume is
Yeah.
why they chose green. But that's not the green that I would say I most align with mermaids
No.
or the ocean or
No.
sirens. And it's funny because it's like sirens are going to be a very big thing this year because of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, right?
Yep,
Like that's
for
a
sure.
huge bit of the journey that Odysseus takes. So
Yep.
it could have really hit on that. So one thing that I saw coming across was that a lot of women were saying like, girl, your own bras don't even fit you right. Why would I trust you to like,
That's a good point.
sell bras to me, or to like know
Yeah.
about sizing and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah.
something also to like consider. And then obviously all the other brand dings like
Yeah.
Cosmo, they again asked her, oh, like, would you ever say about your politics? And she's like, art and politics should be completely different things. And it's just
Yeah.
like, are you not workshopping these answers
Who is
with
giving you this
anybody?
information? Who?
Yeah. Um, and I just think the bigger lesson here is that there are cultural things happening in the world that if you are not going to address, you need to
Yeah.
come up with a better response for why you don't want to answer that. And
Yes.
it's not about giving people attitude and it's not about clapping back.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it kind of goes back to this Monsters Inc. like marketing, which is you better be bringing joy or you better be humorous about it. And all of her
Yeah.
answers have not been either one of
No.
those. So instead, she's just pissing off her potential
Yeah.
audience,
Yeah.
and then not making either side happy. So the
Yeah.
bigger thing here is who are you selling to? I don't think she knows
Honestly,
that.
I don't think she knows that. I think that she has this like detached, aloof quality that she's like been portraying. I don't know if she's like that in real life,
Hmm.
obviously, but I think like that ties into her brand with her new launch because everything just feels kind of detached. Like if the
Hmm.
first thing that you're getting from like a new brand launch like that is, huh? Or or what? Or why? I think just it's very hard to change that perception of like who
Mm,
you are and what you stand for. And I think that kind of will bleed into like the overall image of this kind of lingerie brand too,
hmm.
right? It's like what do you think when you look at it? Like when you see Fenty, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's inclusive, right? Like so many sizes,
Hmm.
like things like that." And it's like, what is the impression that this brand is giving? You can't tell what she stands for, right? I think one of their her taglines is like, um, lingerie you wear for you, like no explanation, no apology. But that like I think the no explanation, no apology is tying in from what you said of like she doesn't want to explain or be apologetic. Like this is just who she is. And I think that was like the thought that kind of went into some of the branding here as well.
Yeah, I do want to say that I saw two completely different responses based on men
Yeah.
and women, right? I saw
I mean, yeah.
a lot of men and like male marketers say, oh, this is gonna be, like, super popular with women because, like, she's got, like,
Yeah.
a great body. What a great rollout. What a great, like, branding, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I saw
Yeah.
women being like, "Who is this for? Like,
For
what is the, like, branding? What is the, like, play
yeah.
here?"
Yeah.
Or I saw the opposite from, a couple men then came out saying that, it's actually not gonna do well because women hate her
Right.
because they're jealous
Right.
of her. And I'm like, okay,
Mm,
that's like not at
that's not
all,
it. No.
it's part of, yeah, I mean, going back to like the female marketers asking like who is the target user here?
Right.
Who is the ICP? And I don't think she
Right.
knows that. I think she's just trying to be like, I'm the hot it girl, like everybody would want to wear like my lingerie because my boobs look good. I guess if we go back to the way that Victoria's Secret used to, do it,
Right.
I think it was who was it? Was it Rode that did new ads that like were reminiscent of old like Victoria's Secret ads. Nostalgia Play could have worked because nostalgia is super in right now.
Yeah.
The aughts, the 90s, super in right now. So
Yeah.
that could have like worked. But it's like it was none of those things. So it just kind of was meh in between for me.
I think if you're
Mm,
trying to be like that era of lingerie ads, I think a lot of millennial women or whoever her target audience is now don't look very fondly upon that era of ads where like it wasn't very inclusive, it wasn't very joyful, it was more like I don't know, comparative and, kind of pitting women against each other or that kind of energy. So I'm the thing is, the fact that we're talking about this for like 5 minutes now and we still don't know what the brand is about, it doesn't like tell
mhm.
you everything because we're still trying to figure it out. We're like, what was the thought behind this, right? And
Yeah.
it shouldn't take this much time to figure that out.
Very true.
Yeah.
All I know is that I am not the target consumer, so
No, no, do not mimic me.
awesome. Okay, so another rebrand that I want to talk about is the granola one, which
Mm,
half of it hit for me and the
mm,
other half did not.
yeah,
So I didn't mind the mark, right? Because it
yeah,
looks like a, swirly G. You can
yeah,
speak to like
yeah.
the infinity of it, right? The
Right.
thing I did not like was the green.
I
It's
know.
such a horrible green. Like it's very like
No.
vomit like
Yeah.
color coded, like it reminds me of like the jelly bean in the Harry Potter movie that was
Oh
for like
yeah.
the earwax or something.
Oh
And
no.
I'm just like, that's just not a pleasant color.
No, it
I
really
thought the
isn't.
old branding, like the color was great. And the other thing that I didn't like was the rollout of it. So the CEO and the, head designer, he's one of the founders,
Yeah,
came out and said that like the original logo and branding were, kind of came together super quickly. There was not really that much thought behind it.
right.
But this new branding has had like hours of work and like talking and, planning and all this. And I just like was like, oh, you're admitting that the one
Sure.
that, like, there wasn't that much thought behind was
Yep.
better than, like, the
Yeah.
one that you did spend countless hours on. So I thought that that was not a good winning strategy.
No.
Obviously, I mean, you can't know that before, right?
Mm.
Maybe they could have asked a couple of their customers, like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And that would have saved them from this.
Yeah.
Because kind of like across the board, the color is the main thing that people don't like. I have seen that some people have said that the new logo looks like the Dreamcast logo, which,
Mm.
is a problem. And I did see,
Yeah.
somebody tweet that like, "Oh, every company eventually goes through like their butthole phase, right? Where it's like they
I was
create
just about
a
to say that. I was
logo."
like, what is with all the companies and their swirly logos? And it's like the sparkle emojis now like become like
Mhm.
AI related, and now this like
Yeah.
swirly logo thing is like we're an AI company or we have
Mhm.
something to do with AI. I know maybe they have like I feel like these two brands are doing the greens dirty. Like there's some good greens out there. They just picked like the
I
salad ones and the worst
know.
ones, and I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of bummed about that because I love granola. Like, I mean, I raved about their like
Oh yeah, they're
end of
great.
year marketing campaign. I
Ah,
thought they like totally beat the Spotify Wrapped.
so bad.
um yeah.
Yeah.
So this isn't like to hate on them. It's to hate on them a little bit for this one misstep
Sometimes
on their
overthinking is a
rebrand.
thing. I think they
I
overthought
know,
this
I
one.
know. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it was another thing too where they're just like they kind of announced it like it was time for a rebrand and it's like, was it?
Was it though?
Was it time? Like I feel like
Yeah.
granola was just getting traction. They're
Right.
still like growing. They're,
Yeah.
had kind of just become recognizable enough. Their branding their rebrand actually, got called out a little bit more
Yeah.
than they would have done if it had been done earlier, because now people are like, "No, like, I saw the logo on my docket," and I was
Like
like,
I
"What the
remember
hell is
you.
this?"
Yeah.
So, something there, but, we'll see what they do. I assume they're not gonna, like, change it. I mean, I might change the green.
Yeah.
Keep the logo, change the green,
Yeah.
but
I
we'll
agree with
see.
that one. I agree with that
Okay.
one.
Awesome. So couple takeaways for me are this whole like Monsters Inc. thing. I'm just gonna keep on,
I love it.
pushing
I
on
love
it
it.
just because I think those are the commercials that are like sticking out to me. Those ads,
Yeah.
like they're they make me laugh, and so then I think more kindly on them and like the companies because it's make me like think about the companies that are actually trying to meet the moment. There's so many heavy things happening right now that a little bit
Yeah.
of levity is meeting the moment for me. So that's that's, something that I really felt from the Anthropic ads and the
Yeah.
Pepsi ad. Shout out to that and to those companies for doing that.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think like similar to that, one of my takeaways is that I'm kind of enjoying the like two competitors going at each other energy because I think it's also smart strategy to take the conversation from just the Super Bowl ad to also like social media and other places because people will talk about it, people will analyze it. It's a smart
Mhm.
way to like keep that conversation going and kind of build on that beef. It opens the doors for like more content, more you know, getting like those impressions and all those other numbers on the day of and or before or after the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think another takeaway from me, based on the healthcare stuff, is we've moved from like wanting to have like the sweet, sugary, guilty pleasure type snacks and into
Yeah.
more of a like wellness, like gut health type space because of GLP-1s. So how are brands trying to like focus on that? Like, how are they
Yeah.
speaking to that moment and making themselves be culturally relevant by bringing up, other like brands that exist in your portfolio still, right?
Yeah.
But, people are looking for, healthy like cereals right now, and Raisin Bran, fits that. Though I will say the Pop Top Bowl this year for college football was like a huge thing. So clearly
That's
that's
true.
still something that they are out there promoting. But definitely try to like, keep an eye out on like what's trending, what's relevant
Yeah.
in your in industries across the board, and then how can you tie yourself to that moment for your brand so that people
Yeah.
speak about your brand related to this bigger trend.
Hey, I mean, it's a $7 million plus commercial, right? So they must have some data to be like, this is worth it to like bring
Hmm.
this like healthcare stuff to the forefront. And
Hmm.
so far, what I'm seeing is like I'm liking that they're doing more like levity based content because we don't want to do like scare tactics, right? When you're trying to get people to like change a health
Hmm.
behavior. It'll be cool to see when how these ads perform and what kind of recall people have for their like benefits, quote unquote.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then for the Disney one, experiences, experiences, experiences. We've been
Yep.
talking about this a lot here, where we've seen, well, a lot of the tech companies do, pop-ups. We didn't talk about it here, but you might have noticed that Kalshi and Polly Market are both launching
Mm-hmm.
grocery stores in New
I
York
saw
as
that.
pop-ups. We saw you
Yeah.
had the ramp experience, the
Yep.
Grand Central experience for Severance, the K-pop, movie sing along
Yes.
experience.
That was
And
fun.
then now we have the ultimate company of experiences, Disney, saying we're going all in
Definitely
on
now.
experiences. So I'm excited to see what they do there. But, for companies, like what are experiences that you can be, having with like your company? Is
Yeah.
there like a community thing that you could be doing to get people to come out? Is there like an event that you can be like hosting? How are you bringing people together? What sorts of things are you doing so that people can have those experiences? Because that's kind of what people are looking for right now.
Yeah. Which was the AI brand that did the big experiences in New York? Was it Anthropic?
It was Claude, yeah. So Anthropic
Yeah.
Claude, they have
So
the
it was
pop up.
Claude, right?
Meta has one.
Yeah. I mean, so even the AI companies are like, we need to meet people where they are, right? Because it's like they're like a pure like technology
Hmm.
company, but they're also like, hey, we also have merch and we're gonna do like these experiences because
Hmm.
there is a part of like the year of the analog and why that's picked up so much steam is because people do
Hmm.
want to be out there doing more things. And hey, even if you're a tech company or Disney, you want to meet people where they are. And so I think it's a really smart strategy
Hmm.
to go all in on experiences.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's another way that that Anthropic Claude has kind of positioned themselves as like more human
Yeah.
centered, human focused, where it's like,
Yep.
hey, come to our store, get merch.
Right.
Um, so, you know, they definitely are like there with like where what's trending, what are people talking about, how are we speaking to the cultural moment. So shout out
Yep.
to them for being on top of that. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Gio,
Yeah.
for joining me. Where can people find
My
you?
pleasure. You can follow me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Jiya Jaisingh. Or you can visit my website, which is also my name. So it's jiyajaisingh.com. And you can get in touch with me there or reach out, say hi, whatever you want.
Awesome. And then you can follow me at Sonia Biches everywhere, and the podcast at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and Meme Team Podcast on Spotify and TikTok. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.